Hello, I'm Jean Prinzavalli, licensed psychotherapist located here in Los Angeles, California. This is a channel about self-awareness and building healthy self-esteem. Today I wanted to talk about flexibility and expectations. So let me provide an example scenario for you. When I was in middle school, my goal was, when I got into high school, to find someone who could get me cigarettes and get me pot so I could start smoking both of those things. And then when I got to high school, I planned out my entire life for the most part. I decided that I was going to go to college, and then after college during college, I was going to meet the man of my dreams. And then we were going to be dating for 3 years. We were going to get engaged, and we were going to get married like 2 years later. And then we were going to move in together, buy a house together. I wanted to move in before we got married. I wanted to make sure we were compatible, in all areas. And then after we were together and married and we bought a house, then we were going to have kids. And, I was going to have all of this done. I believe I was going to be pregnant and popping out my first kid by the time I was 27. Okay? So, how do you think that panned out? Do you think that I got exactly what I wanted in the exact form and order that I wanted it? I'm going to tell you no. Okay, to be fair, I was able to find people with cigarettes and pot for when I got to high school, but I did not meet the man of my dreams on my timeline. And the reason I'm telling you this random story is because this is a common theme for a lot of people. People will try to decide what is best for them, what is the ideal scenario, what they think is going to work and be the best outcome for them. And so that becomes their ultimate goal. And so we tend to plan and try to control every step of the way until we reach what this ideal outcome was. Now, we get our mind set, and I love the fact that people have determination and they have motivation and drive to go for something that they want to go for. However, if there is no flexibility, then you run into issues, right? So then every time I date someone, if he doesn't fit the picture of what I want it to be for the ideal man, then I'm frustrated. And then I'm pissed off. And then I'm worried that I'm wasting time because my goal is getting closer to the end line and I haven't fulfilled any of these steps yet, right? And so it causes some complications. And then every time I meet the wrong guy, I get frustrated and I get pissed off and I decide that there must be something wrong with me. Or I decide that it's just men and it's all men's fault because they all suck. Like, you can go in so many different directions as to when things don't work out exactly the way you want them to. Like, there are negative, it means something bad about you because of it. Or you blame everybody else because of it. It's because we've created something that is very inflexible. There's no room for change, right? Like, I was like, well, I have already messed up my plan. Excuse me, you did not hear that. I already messed up my plan, so, now what? Now what is my life going to look like? My life is going to be all messed up and ruined because of this. So there's a bunch of issues that arise from my ideal plan. First of all, I'm in high school. I'm still learning about myself. Me, not being in high school now, being way past high school, still learning about myself. So how do I know that the dream life for me and the perfect life for me is what I painted in that picture, is the scenario that I created for myself when I was like 15 years old, right? So that's a really big question, and that's an important thing to answer, because I have decided that there are certain ideals and certain expectations that I have of myself, of others, of the people around me, and of my life. And a lot of times, those are just set in our minds from our childhood or from our life in different forms and in different ways. And it's not necessarily because it's actually what's right for us. It's what we think should work for us, or what should be right for us, or what we should be trying to reach. What goal is the goal we should be reaching, not taking into consideration that we're a little bit different than maybe our best friend who wants the exact same thing, or we're different from both of our parents in some way, shape, or form, and we got these ideas from our parents or from the environment that we were raised in, that this is the way that everybody does it in life around there, so of course this is the way that I'm going to want to do it. So we end up getting stuck in a corner because a lot of times we fight so hard for this, and we get stressed out and frustrated and overwhelmed and maybe get anxious and depressed because we have decided that there are certain ideals set for us that are best for us. We've created the expectation, and when things don't go our way, we've decided there's something wrong with us or something wrong with the world. Usually people with self-esteem issues, well, this will create some self-esteem issues sometimes, and then if you already had self-esteem issues, you're going to end up feeling worse about yourself because you're going to think, well, it must be me. I must be doing something wrong. I must not be succeeding. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't deserve to have the ideal life. Maybe I'm not pretty enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I wouldn't be a good mother. Maybe I shouldn't so you start doubting everything about who you are as a human being based on what this expectation or ideal for you was. And people get caught up in this all the time. Instead of looking at what this ideal was, where these expectations and ideals even came from, do they even actually serve me? Are they actually true to who I am? Do they actually work for my personality? And is there a way for me to be flexible with that? Is it okay if I don't get it in that exact form? Because it's absolutely okay if you didn't get it in that exact form. And at the end of the day, if your idea was so rigid and inflexible the first place, and then you're going to the extreme opposite end when it doesn't work out the way you want it to, where you're like, well, I didn't get it that way, so what's the point of even trying? And a lot of people do that. They end up just giving up. So at the end of the day, if you're going to opposite ends of the spectrum, most likely what's happening is you're trying to reach for something that doesn't serve you. So either it doesn't fit you as a human being. So for me, getting married, first of all, the pressure of trying to find this ideal guy was pressure in itself, especially considering the fact that when I really looked at what this ideal guy was that I wanted, that wasn't even what would work for me. I would have actually been totally miserable if I had found this supposed ideal guy, if I had gotten married and had a bunch of kids and lived in this little house where I'm from. I would have been 100% miserable because that's not who I am. That doesn't work for my personality and what I wanted really and truly out of my life. And so I had to break free of that, and I had to look at that. Where did I get that idea from? And yeah, a lot of times it comes from our parents, but not in full. We take the information of how our parents live, what our parents teach us, what the people around us teach us, and then we come up with the ideal package for us in our mind. But if we're constantly hitting a wall with it and it's not working for us, then most likely we've set an unrealistic expectation for ourselves. Most likely we've set up an ideal that is not true to who we are in some form. It doesn't mean the whole thing has to be thrown out the trash and you have to start from scratch. It just means you have to look at why you want each of those pieces and if those pieces actually work for you, who you are as an individual, regardless of what other people think, regardless of what other people want of you, but how they actually fit you. And different from how you think you should be or what you think should fit you, but what actually does work for you. And when you're able to kind of look at that, you're able to adjust what your expectation is and break free of some of the unrealistic elements of it, and then make that goal more reachable for you, right? And so maybe the goal is, like for me, for example, it was not having a normal relationship, not having a quote-unquote idealistic traditional relationship. I realized that's not of any interest to me at all. But I had to look at it, and I had to assess it, and I had to get over my ideals because I had to realize that they weren't actually mine. Those ideas were never even mine to start with. I just needed a direction to go in, and so that's where I went. And the only way I would know that that was wrong was if I had them set up in the first place. So there's nothing wrong with having ideals and expectations, because that's how you learn and grow, by looking at them and realizing, do they really work for you? Do I really need them? And then by breaking them down, you end up giving yourself a lot more flexibility and a lot more freedom to be true to who you are and understand and learn who you really are. And so what ends up happening is then you're not so rigid with your options, because you're not on one end of the spectrum saying it's either all this or all of this, or all of this or none, or nothing at all. You know, it's like you have so many other possibilities in between these two ends, so many options of how you want to function and be in life, that you get to have a goal, and the process to getting there, you learn more about yourself, and then you realize that maybe that goal needs to change. But you have so much flexibility in between those two options that you get to choose, and you get to pull at the pieces that work for you as you learn more about yourself. But that does mean that you have to break some of those barriers down and look at some of those things honestly and truthfully. And it may be painful and uncomfortable and hard to do, because there may be people who don't think that's a good idea or don't agree with you. You know, there may be people against you, but the most important thing is that you live true to who you are. And a lot of times that does mean, a lot of times that means doing things that in some ways, not the way you were planning on doing it or being told you should do it, even if you were telling yourself. So I'm bringing this up because this is going to affect self-esteem. Okay, so what it's going to do is it's going to create a lot of self-doubt and a lot of self-trust, and, you know, make us worry about who we are as a human being, because we're actually fighting who we are and what we think we should be. And when we do that, we're basically creating a rigid box that we have to live in. And we're not allowing ourselves to flow with the way life really is. And so, you know, if you find yourself being really held really firmly on an idea or a plan or a goal of yours, you know, like, look at that and question why. Because there might be some rigidity to it, and there might be a reason for that. And the reason I'm presenting this is because it will help you grow and evolve as a human being and get to know yourself better, but it will also help your self-esteem. Because the more that you recognize and break free of things, of expectations you've set that are not realistic for yourself, the more you'll see yourself, and the more you'll be able to give yourself what you need, be present for yourself, and then you won't be having situations where you're doubting yourself and wondering if maybe you're not good enough, because you're not setting yourself up for a situation that's not going to work for you. If I had found this guy and I had settled and gotten married, you know, I wouldn't have been happy, and that person that I would put that through wouldn't have been happy either, right? And so, you know, I would have suffered, and then I would have probably not been that good of a wife and child, a mother, or as good as I would have hoped. And then there probably would have been a lot of self-confidence issues that would have arose for me should I have made that choice. But because I didn't, I was actually able to build my self-esteem because I believed in myself, and I decided that it was okay to do what was best for me, because it's also going to be best for the people around me, because I'm not going to take people down when I'm taking myself down, because I'm making choices that don't serve me. So it's like a win-win, and so if you want to become more self-aware of yourself, this is one way to do it, and it will also ultimately help you build self-esteem, because you won't have as much doubt, because you'll know that you're making the right decision even if people don't always agree with the decisions you're making. So hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully you can apply that to things in your life and see if you can maybe make some adjustments on just your viewpoints on how you're functioning or how you should function. And I look forward to giving you more information next time on the next video. And you can also check out my website at selfawareness therapy.com for any more information. Okay, have a good night. Bye.